Have you ever felt that the more deeply you perceive the world, the more distant you become from it? That as your understanding deepens, your voice is heard less, not more? This is no illusion. Throughout history, society has harbored a quiet apprehension toward those who think too deeply, not because these thinkers are wrong, but because they perceive what others dare not confront. From Socrates, sentenced to death for corrupting the youth with questions, to Galileo, imprisoned for observing the stars too honestly, and Tesla, whose brilliance was met not with celebration, but neglect, the tale is ancient. Great minds are not shunned for their lack of intelligence, but for the discomfort they create. They threaten the illusions upon which many rest their identities. Arthur Schopenhauer, among the most brutally honest of philosophers, once wrote that intelligence is not a gift, but a curse. It isolates. Not because the intelligent wish to be alone, but because the world finds their clarity unbearable. Why is this so? The answer lies not merely in culture, but deep within the architecture of the human psyche. When you stand beside someone physically stronger, you may admire them. In the presence of wealth, you may feel envy, but not erasure. Yet when confronted with intellectual depth, something primal is triggered, a quiet panic. Psychologists call this the mirror effect. The deep thinker, without intent, becomes a reflection of inadequacy, a reminder of truths others have not yet faced or are unwilling to. The reaction is rarely rational, it is instinctual, for unlike strength or beauty, which are external and can be admired at a safe distance, intelligence penetrates. It questions, it sees, and what it sees is often what others wish to leave unseen. Intelligence touches identity. It interrogates the foundations of belief, of self-perception, of how we order the world. To meet a deep thinker is to risk being undone, gently, silently, but undeniably. Thus, where one might applaud physical or material superiority, intellectual superiority is met with suspicion, resistance, even hostility. History is filled with such rejections. Not because truth is undesirable, but because comfort is preferable. In social settings, studies have shown that confidence is often more valued than clarity, charisma more than depth. People gravitate toward voices that affirm, not ones that challenge. This is why simple thinkers often gather larger followings than subtle ones. The crowd favors certainty over contemplation, slogans over nuance. The modern world has only intensified this. Social media, with its algorithms of immediacy, rewards the provocative over the profound. A viral clip thrives not because it enlightens, but because it entertains or enrages. The deep thinker, by contrast, struggles to compress truth into sound bites. And so they vanish, not by force, but by indifference. This is not merely cultural, it is biological. Neuroscience reveals that when people feel intellectually outmatched, the amygdala, the brain's fear center, activates. The body responds as though under threat. Not because a philosopher wields a weapon, but because their insight cuts through illusion. It challenges the safety of delusion. Why would thought be so feared? Because for most of human history, survival did not depend on truth, but on belonging. To be cast out from the tribe was to face death. Thus we are wired not for independent insight, but for group cohesion. The intelligent individual, by merely existing, unsettles that harmony. They become, in the unconscious mind, not a mentor, but a threat. Schopenhauer recognized this long ago. He saw the intellect as a torch that illuminates not only beauty but also suffering, contradiction, and the futility of so many human pursuits. The average person, he argued, seeks comfort, pleasure, status, repetition. The philosopher, in contrast, seeks truth, even when it wounds. And this divergence creates alienation. Where most find meaning in the ordinary, the philosopher questions. Where most talk, the thinker reflects. Where most affirm, the philosopher doubts. This is why the intelligent so often feel estranged from society, not because they are antisocial, but because they cannot bear the superficial. They see through the social theater, the masks, the polite deceptions. They crave substance where the world offers spectacle. Even in conversation, their presence may disturb, not because they preach, but because their silence speaks. Their mind suggests an alternate path, one that leads not to comfort, but to confrontation with the real. And that, for most, is intolerable. Yet this burden, Schopenhauer suggested, need not become despair. He offered a path, not of conformity, but of solitude, not of resignation, but of inward freedom. Art, philosophy, and quiet contemplation become sanctuaries for the thinker. In them, one can speak truth without fear of the crowd's reaction. One can connect not with many, but deeply with a few. So what then is the task of the deep thinker? It is not to seek acceptance, but to remain faithful to perception. It is to carry the torch of insight even when it burns the hand. It is to understand that alienation is not failure. It is the mark of clarity in a world that resists it. And perhaps, in the silent moments between words, among books, ideas, and those rare souls who also see, there is a different kind of belonging, one not granted by society, but earned through understanding.